So I've meditated over 2,000 days in a row. That's over 5 years of sitting down every day and doing nothing. And I know what you're thinking, why would you do that? What an absolute fucking waste of time. But those 2,000 sessions of mostly doing nothing taught me a lot about how to handle stress and anxiety and overthinking. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. I'm also going to go over the stop method, which is a nice companion to meditation. But before we get to that, I want to mention that consistent meditation isn't going to turn you into some Buddha monk who experiences no negative emotions. It's also not the most fun activity, right? You're going to get bored, you're going to get annoyed, you might fall asleep a few times, and you're going to wonder whether you're doing it right or not. I'm 2,000 days in, and after a lot of my sessions, I think to myself, I was barely meditating there. It's hard, it's not something that you can really master. And one thing that's important to understand is the bicep curl of meditation is noticing your thoughts, right? The work happens when you're sitting there, you're bored out of your mind, and you notice that you're thinking about being bored out of your mind. Most of us are thinking every moment of the day. We're constantly having these internal conversations with ourselves, and they happen so often that we can stop noticing when that's going on. Pretty much all negative feelings come from being lost in thought and thinking without knowing you're thinking. If you think back to the last time you were super angry or anxious or upset, there's a very high chance that you were in your head making those feelings worse, and meditation can help you notice that. I don't meditate like this, by the way. This is uncomfortable as f***. I'm just doing it for the visual. So meditation does a lot of things, but for me, the main thing it does is level up your awareness. It improves your ability to observe your thoughts as thoughts rather than getting lost in them. And there's a big difference between having a thought and identifying with those thoughts. Those feelings are 100% there, but you aren't those things. You're sort of just the observer of them. I'm going to be honest about my 2,000 meditation sessions. A lot of them I meditated before going to sleep in this half asleep state. Sometimes I meditated while walking. Most of the time I set a timer for 5 minutes, and sometimes I set a timer for 1 minute and counted that as meditation. What I'm trying to say is my practice was all over the place, or still is, and the one thing that held it together was consistency. So my number one recommendation is to just do it every day. And if you can't be bothered some days, elaborate, right? Set a timer for 1 minute and close your eyes, right? It doesn't need to be you sitting down with your legs crossed for 30 minutes to be a meditation. Just keep doing it every single day. Even when you're lying in bed, meditate. You'll either have a good meditation or you'll fall asleep, which is a win-win either way. And that brings us to the most practical thing I've learned: how meditation can help you in real time when you're feeling overwhelmed or anxious or stressed. So I've called it the stop method, and it's based on the idea that a thought is something we have and thinking is something we do. So the Buddha taught that 2 arrows fly our way whenever we experience an unwanted emotion. The first arrow is pain, and the second arrow is suffering, our thinking about the thought. And basically, we can't always control the first arrow, the thoughts that we have throughout our day, but we absolutely can control the second arrow, which is our reaction or overthinking about the initial emotion. So here is how stop works. So whenever you're stressed or overwhelmed, stop and go through these 4 steps. S is stop and take a deep breath. Notice that you're thinking without judging it. T, tell yourself that this thinking isn't really helping me right now. Remind yourself that you control the second arrow. O, observe your emotions. I like to think of this lion metaphor. So instead of being trapped in a cage with angry lion of your emotions, you step outside the cage and observe it from a distance. So the lion is still there, your emotions are still there, but there's a distance and you can handle your situation a lot easier. It's about observing what's going on in you as if it were happening to someone else. And finally, P is pass through and let go. Allow all the unwanted emotions to flow through you without attaching to them. And remind yourself that this unwanted emotion will pass, just like every other unwanted emotion you've had has passed. Then basically just use any negative emotion as a cue that you're overthinking and run through this stop method. And by doing this, you realise that a lot of your problems aren't worth the mental energy that you're currently giving them. When you look back at things you were worried about 6 months ago, a week ago, even sometimes a day ago, you realise that they're kind of silly now. And when you have that awareness, you can remind yourself of that. Like when you're going through a stressful period, you can think back to other stressful times in your life and realise that you got through them. You can think of your brain as a computer. So some apps like anger and anxiety and stress, they're all pre-installed, right? They're sort of features that come with the computer. But running them constantly, it drains your battery. The goal should never be to completely delete the stress and anxiety applications from your brain. The goal should just be to run the awareness application a bit more. Look, meditation isn't for everyone. You might have tried it in the past and felt it didn't work. But if you're interested in increasing your self-awareness and handling life problems in a slightly better way, here's what I would recommend. Start small, maybe meditate 3 times per week and then slowly build yourself up to doing it every single day, even if that is just doing it for 1 minute. Then start using the stop method whenever you catch yourself overthinking or ruminating. And remember, you're not doing this to become a completely faultless, 24/7 peaceful person. The goal or the end goal is just to become a better observer. In the grand scheme of things, a lot of our problems aren't worth worrying about. And when we meditate and increase our self-awareness, we'll still have problems, we'll still have negative emotions and feelings, but they won't affect us as much. It creates this distance which makes solving problems and getting through tough times 10 times easier.